We asked our Instagram followers who is the best Boros commander, and we can now tell you the top 10 best Boros commanders in MTG 2023 update. Just making it into the list we have Bruenor Battlehammer. Originally printed in 2021's AFR D&D set, each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. You may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. A common theme in Boros, we're going all out equipment. An artifact subtype, since first appearing in the 2003 Mirrodin block, we've had nearly 500 equipment released since, and with nearly 85% of those being in our Boros colours, we have so many options at our disposal. We also want to throw in all of those equipment supporting cards, to cheapen the cost of casting those cards, give our creatures double strike and everything else. And to make sure we make the most of that free equip cost, we want to ensure to have all of those huge equip costing cards, gain all of that value and smash through our opponents for the win. And that alt art D&D style? Perfection.
Oh, that's hot.
Before we get on to number 9, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe down below for all things MTG. And when you're signing up to Card Market, use our referral code gathering-the-magic. Shout out to Ryber Weds for using our code. You love to see it. Moving on to number 9, we have Aelia, the War Leader. Originally printed in 2013's Gatecrash, Flying Vigilant Hasty Aelia says when she attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. Many ways to go with Aelia, the first being all our angels. With over 250 angels within MTG, and nearly 80% of them being in our colours, again, this is a creature type that will be easy to fill out a deck with. A synergistic creature type, we have angels that give other angels +1/+1 counters, angels to draw us cards, and even angels to make all of our angels indestructible. Another strategy to go here is to lean into extra turns. We're already getting extra turns, so why not get even more and endlessly attack our opponents? And to round off, once again we could focus on everything equipment, but in this video we have a lot more Boros equipment loving commanders coming up, so let's just awkwardly end this section and move on to number 8.
This is awkward.
Next on the list we have Albedo, Ancient Witness. Printed just the once in Commander 2021, other artifact creatures you control have haste. Whenever one or more artifact creatures you control attack, Albedo deals X damage to any target and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control. Here we are going all out artifacts. We are filling our decks with artifact creatures, making Albedo give them haste, then getting some damage and scry action on top of that. Most importantly, Albedo's text says number of tapped artifacts you control, so this doesn't have to be limited to just artifact creatures. That means we can ramp ourselves silly, attack with artifact creatures, then get even more value from our commander. Lastly, we have so many cards and mechanics such as Metalcraft, which will gain us even more value when playing artifacts. Those that can cheapen the cost of artifacts, give all artifacts flash, or even just give us some early card draw. We all love that white version of, are you going to pay the one?
Shut up! Shut your big mouth right now!
In at number 7 we have Niri, Forged in Fury. Printed in 2023's March of the Machine, Niri has affinity for equipment. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. You may cast equipment spells this way without paying their mana costs. Another Boros commander, another equipment lover.
Another one. Another one.
We've probably seen a few of these cards before, but let's start with all of those equipment loving cards. We want to be gaining value every time we play an equipment, so we may as well throw in all of those standard cards to draw us more cards, because drawing cards in EDH wins games. We want a strong mix of cheap and expensive to cast mana value equipment, throw in cheap equipment to boost our creatures, make them indestructible, and mainly make Niri cheaper to cast. Once she's out, attach on all of our big expensive equipment and hope she can cheat out even more equipment onto the field. A fun and potentially always cheap commander to cast, you love to see it.
That's not a good catchphrase.
Narrowly missing out on the top half we have General Ferrus Rockerick. Released in 2021's Modern Horizons 2, the General has protection from multicoloured, and whenever you cast a multicoloured spell, create a 4/4 Golem artifact creature token. Many ways to go in this deck. We can focus on humans, we can focus on soldiers, we can focus on legendary cards. The main thing though is that we cast those multicoloured spells. The more spells we cast, the more golems we get, and the bigger army we have to overwhelm our opponents with. Sunforger is the absolute MVP in a Rockerick deck. Pay 2, cast something of 4 or less for free, also getting a 4/4 Golem. Now that is value. Lastly, play some multicoloured cards that will make our creatures stronger, allow us to order our attacks and everything else to ensure we walk away with the victory. This is a great commander and one that I enjoy playing in my 5 colour Omnath deck. Next on up we have Firesong and Sunspeaker. Originally a promo card in 2018's Dominaria, red instant or sorcery spells you control have lifelink. Whenever a white instant or sorcery spell causes you to gain life, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. These decks tend to work around that burn strategy. We want to go aggro and get our opponent's life total down as quick as possible. With our commander out, not only will we be pinging our opponents for 1, 2, 3 or more damage each time, but we will be gaining life at the same time. Of course, throwing in those iconic cards that double or triple damage to our opponents is huge. Burn an opponent for 3 and actually do 6 damage while also gaining 6 lives ourselves, all for potentially 1 red mana. That is crazy. Lastly, with big and X mana spells about, we can be doing 10, 20 or more damage, getting ourselves at a crazy high life total and getting the win every time. Firesong and Sunspeaker, what an iconic duo. Just missing out on the bronze medal spot, we have Osar, the Reconstructor. Another printed in Commander 2021, you can pay 1 and sack an artifact to give target creature you control +2/+0 until end of turn. Or pay X, tap and exile an artifact card with mana value X from your graveyard, create 2 tokens that are copies of the exiled card. Activate only as a sorcery. Once again we're going down that artifact route. We're going to pile every EDH loving artifact into this deck, sack them when the time is right to boost one of our creatures during combat. Throwing in all of those artifact loving cards will never go amiss either. Artifacts that love more artifacts are key. If any of our artifacts hit the graveyard, then that is no problem. Osar can then exile it and create 2 copies of that exiled card. And some artifacts that we can have 2 copies of could be insane. What is the best Osar manoeuvre you've managed to pull off? Let me know in the comments below. For the third best commander we have Wiot, Soul of Steel. Printed in 2020's Commander Legends, whenever Wiot attacks, draw a card for each aura and equipment attached to it. Third time's a charm for this list. Once again we're making a deck full of equipment. Once again throw in a bevy of equipment into our decks, this time however leaning more into the Voltron side of things. When our trample loving commander attacks, we're drawing a card for each equipment on it, so the more we pile onto it rather than spreading the love to other creatures, the more cards we're going to draw. Of course, if we do fancy a change, we can lean into auras. There are plenty in MTG, especially in our white colours, but of course, if Wiot leaves the field, so do all of those auras, so equipment that stays on the field really is the preferred method here. Why is this the most popular equipment commander on the list? Because it's cheap to cast and it gets you potentially drawing so many cards. And we know what happens when you draw cards.
I win, you lose.
Runner up and the second best commander, we have Wiot, Joiner of Forces. Printed in one of the GOAT sets 2020's Ikoria, whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human creature card from among them onto the field, tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. A deck with a variety of options. One here though is Hate Bears. Throw in a deadly mix of human and non-human creatures, always trying to keep a fairly even split so you don't whiff on any Wiot triggers. But we're making those creatures evil. Creatures with a variety of horrible effects, not too dissimilar to those stacks type cards, which will prevent our opponents from casting certain spells, making it more expensive for them to cast spells, or even only allowing them to cast 1 spell per turn. An awesome commander and an awesome card back in the day on Standard. This card is my favourite on the Boros list. Now is it better in your opinion than number 1? Winner and the best Boros commander is Feather the Redeemed. Printed in 2019's War of the Spark, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it in the graveyard as it resolves. If you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. This is one of those decks that loves a bit of spell slinging or cantrip action. Play cheap sneaky spells, they exile, and wouldn't you know it, not only are you drawing a card if it's a cantrippy one, but the spell itself returns straight back to you at the next end step. It doesn't even have to be your end step too. You could be playing the same pesky spells on each person's turn, if you have the mana of course. Once again, another EDH commander that absolutely loves Sunforger. If you have a Boros deck, odds are this card should absolutely be in there. An insanely powerful commander, and one that is also insanely cheap to cast for what it does, and one that is rightfully the best Boros commander in MTG. There we have it, that is the top 10 Boros list. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for all things MTG. Check out our link tree for all of our social media and affiliate links. For now though, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.